Channel Sports Central, we go over our March Madness game preview and prediction on the round of 64 matchup between the Colorado State Rams and the Michigan Wolverines. Both teams have had good seasons to this point. You got Colorado State, who's the second best team in the Mountain West, coming in 25-5 overall, and they got a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament. They'll be facing off against Michigan, who is a middle-of-the-pack team in the Big Ten. Even though the Big Ten is the best conference, you could definitely say in college basketball, and this team is 17-14 overall heading into this matchup. And even though they're a very talented basketball team for sure, they have been inconsistent at times, and that's the main concern for Michigan heading into this game. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Colorado State, once again, 25-5 overall, 14-4 in the Mountain West. So, I mean, it's been a great season for Colorado State. This team started out like 11-0. They're undefeated for a long time. And so the Rams definitely, if you look at their conference play, 14-4, it's been a good season for them. One concern, though, for Colorado State, this team has not played a lot of top-tier teams. I mean, they haven't even played one top 25 team this season. They've got some good wins down the stretch against a few teams that are in the tournament, but nonetheless, this team hasn't played anyone that's actually ranked. But for Michigan, they've got plenty of experience there, 17-14 overall, so the record is obviously not as good as the Rams, but the strength of schedule is much higher on Michigan. They're 11-9 in conference play, then 2-7 in games against the top 25. So, I mean, this team has lost multiple games against top 25 opponents, but they do have experience playing against high-caliber opponents. So you could say that's an advantage for Michigan heading into this matchup. Game will be on Thursday, March 17th, Indianapolis, Indiana. Game time is 12:15 p.m. Eastern. So I think it's actually the first round of 64 game to tip off. Then you got Michigan, who's favored by 2.5 points here. So 11 seed is favored over a 6 seed here in this matchup by 2.5 points towards Michigan. Over/under 139.5, and your BPI is going with Michigan here, 73.2%. So the BPI is going very heavily on Michigan. I mean, 73%, that is a heavy percentage towards the Wolverines. Series history, it's tied 1-1, but we really don't have too much experience between these two teams. Last game was in 2002, so it's been over 2 decades since we last saw these two teams face off against each other. Here's your stat comparison for this game. You got Colorado State, who's got 73 points a game, and their defense is allowing 65.7 points a game. So offensively, Colorado State's a really good team. They got a high-powered offense, and their defense at 65 points a game is they've got a good defense too. But once again, when you're facing off against not many high-caliber opponents, that is bound to be that way, especially if you're a good team. But Michigan, 73 points a game, 69.9 points allowed per game. Then you got 28, which 20 is the ranking on the BPI, as in comparison to Colorado State is 81. So yeah, Michigan is at 28, which is like 60 positions higher than Colorado State. So also something to keep in mind there. Some notable matchups as well. If you look at both teams, I mean, both teams have played talented teams and multiple that are in the tournament, especially Michigan. They've got a large resume of teams that they have faced that are in the tournament. They lost to Arizona back earlier in the season by 18, and Arizona's a 1 seed, so it makes sense why the Wildcats were so dominant in that matchup. They beat Purdue once, but lost once. Kind of the same scenario with Iowa and Ohio State. Michigan beat them once, but also lost to them once. And they beat number 8 San Diego State by 14. And so you can see the seedings there of each of the teams in the tournament. So, of course, Purdue's a 3 seed, Iowa's a 5 seed, Ohio State's a 7 seed, and San Diego State is an 8 seed in this tournament. And if you look at Colorado State, they haven't faced anyone higher than a 5 seed this season to this point. They've played a couple of teams. They played San Diego State, who's an 8 seed, Boise State, who's an 8 seed, beat Boise State twice, lost to San Diego State twice, but beat them once, beat Creighton by 14, beat St. Mary's by 16. So that was definitely a huge quality win, potentially the best one of the season to this point. And they were 1-1 against Wyoming, who is a 12 seed playing in the first 4. And if you look at some key points here, Colorado State 25-5 overall. David Roddy, major impact player, definitely someone to keep an eye on. He's got 19 points a game on average in the season. So, I mean, he's a guard. He's an excellent ball player, and definitely gonna have a huge impact in this game. Colorado State, once again, I mean, this team was undefeated for a long time. 11-0 was how they started off the season. Multiple quality wins as well. If you look at the first parts of the season, and they've had a lot of close wins though too. That's something that I do want to mention. I mean, Colorado State, they've got a lot of wins on their schedule. They've won 25 games, but they have played a lot of close and they've had a lot of close wins, which is, I mean, it is a bit concerning if you come down to it. I mean, if you're dominant and you're beating your opponents by, say, 10, 15 consistently, that is, I mean, that's a great sign. But Colorado State has had a lot of close wins over decent opponents. But they have been consistent with those wins, though, so that's definitely something to keep in mind there, is that this team hasn't been terribly inconsistent. For Michigan, though, kind of a different story. I mean, this team, they've played a lot of tough games, been a lot of tough opponents for sure, but they have been pretty inconsistent down the stretch. So that does kind of concern me heading into a tournament where you got to win however many games in a row to get to the national title, and this team has got a tough road, Michigan. So, I mean, can their inconsistencies hold up and allow them to make a run? I mean, this team has got experience playing against tough opponents, so I'm not ruling that out. But, I mean, you got Hunter Dickinson and Devontae Jones, both key players going into this game, especially Dickinson, who's got 18 points a game on the season. So, I mean, yeah, two major key impact players here. And I think if you look at Michigan, 11-9 in Big Ten play, they've gotten some good wins down the stretch, as shown just before. But, I mean, once again, this team has been inconsistent at times, and that's kind of the main concern that I see with this Michigan basketball team. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Colorado State and Michigan in the round of 64. I'll give you guys a score prediction, 70-66. I'm going to go with Michigan to win this game, and this is a tough one, obviously. I mean, 6 versus 11 games are almost toss-ups. Like, we've seen a lot of 11 seeds pull upsets over the 6 seed. I mean, it's one of the most common upsets in the tournament. So, I mean, Michigan, I just feel like the strength of schedule, plus, I mean, this team has played, I mean, they've won some great games, and they've been a bit inconsistent. But when this team, I mean, the ceiling is higher for Michigan, if you ask me. And if you look at how they've played down the stretch, this team has got a very high ceiling. They can play at a high level, but at the same time, the floor is pretty low for Michigan. They've had some bad losses down the stretch too. But in the end, I just feel like Michigan is the more talented basketball team, and I feel like that they pull it out in the end. It's going to be close, though, 70-66. I'm going with the Wolverines here, 55% chance. Your over-under is 139.5. I'm going to take the under for this game and Michigan to cover the 2.5-point spread as well. And it definitely says something when you got an 11 seed who is favored by 2.5 points over a 6 seed. So something to keep an eye on there. But Colorado State, still wouldn't be surprised if they pulled it out. It could go either way, but I'm going to go with Michigan in this game. Appreciate you guys all watching as always. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Who are you picking? Drop that in the comments below. But I appreciate you guys all watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.